Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Codex Stations Slab episode, and this is episode number 8. This is the CGC fraud and reholder scam issue going on right now, but this is the follow-up one. So if you haven't checked out our first one on this after this video, go back and check that one out. As always, I'm joined by my usual over here, my usual partners in crime, Tim the Terrible, Wes the Rebel Scum. But tonight we've got a very special guest star, Manu, on Instagram as the 9.9 Newsstand. How you guys doing tonight?
Very
Awesome.
good.
Welcome to the show, Manu.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing very well tonight. Sal, pleasure to meet you. Tim, it's been nice speaking to you for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
Glad we're here. Wes, nice to meet you as well.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Pleasure's all on this side of the table, guy.
I think this is the most polite guest we've ever had. I'm going to
Yeah.
go make cookies right now. So
All right. Very good. Very
That's
good.
because we haven't started
Grandma
talking
Kim.
about what's going on yet.
That's
why,
true.
That's true. But
right?
let's go ahead and give a summary of what's going on. Manu, why don't you go ahead and give us like a little summary of what's happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we discussed by now, most people are aware, but yeah, let's go ahead and jump into a quick summary. So a few weeks ago, I noticed something funny with a 9.8 Mark Jewelers ASM 252 that had sold. Now, it wasn't what most people thought was weird about it. They thought the price that it sold for was weird. I didn't think that was funny because I deal in those books. My friends are a little crazy when it comes to this stuff. And, you get two people that have enough money and enough interest in the book to bid at it, it can get out of hand, right? And
Right.
but what was interesting to me was I had seen that book weeks prior on a consignment page, and I had noticed that it didn't look so great, but I wrote it off as a gift grade. A lot of my friends, they speak to me about these things and they ask me, should they buy this? Or what do I think about this? And I tell them that's a gift grade. For the amount of money that book's going to cost you, it's not a proud 9.8. You don't want that one. I know it's a ghost. I know you're excited. Wait for a better copy. Somehow, the grader on that book gave it a grade that it really shouldn't be sporting. So let's just forget about this book. And it didn't sell when it had an asking price on it and ended up at auction, sold for $15,700. Now, I didn't bid on the book because I didn't think it was attractive, nor did my friends. But somebody made this interesting reel where they were fascinated by the price it had sold for. And they said, hey, but 3 months ago it sold for $2,000. And that's when I stopped. I said, first of all, this reel is kind of irritating because they're saying that the same book sold for $2,000. You have to use your head right there immediately. You have to, if you don't know what Mark Jewelers are or what that niche book sells for, you're not really qualified to speak on it, right? And so I get a little agitated, like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. This Mark Jewelers book would never have sold for $2,000. In fact, if I knew it was available and it was going to sell for anywhere near that, even if it was an ugly one, I would have bought it because a 9.4 of that book would roughly sell around $2,000.
yeah.
And the price gap is huge, even between a 9.4, 9.8, 9.6, and 9.8. So in any
Right.
case, I went into GPA and I did see that in the Mark Jewelers column, there was that $15,700 sale. And right below that was the same cert number, but it had sold for, I think it was $2,247, 3 months prior. And so I thought, well, I need to see a picture. I need to see what happened with this listing. Why did this book sell for so low? If it was advertised as a Mark Jewelers, it must not have been. But then how did the buyer know what they were buying? And I'll connect the dots as to why I knew the buyer was aware. But I called my friend and I said, hey, this is over 90 days ago, West Coast Davengers. He and I have been covering this together. We do live streams, Dave, West Coast Davengers, on YouTube and Instagram. And I said, hey, man, you have Terapeak, that paid eBay sort of service. Can you go back and take a look at the sale and screenshot anything associated with it? Fortunately, there was that photo. Sends it to me immediately. I said, oh my goodness. This is not the same book. This book is a 9.8 Newsstand encapsulated, but it is the prettiest 252 you had ever seen. Sharp corners, great spine, no back cover showing. I mean, this thing is crisp. It is pristine.
Rolled off the
And
showroom floor.
Minty
absolutely
fresh.
right. Absolutely right. And the 9.8 Mark Jewelers, the 9.8 that had sold, no, it looked more like a 9.4, maybe a 9.6 on a decent day, right? And so immediately I knew something is wrong here. But what's interesting is when these books were first listed on a consignment page, no one knew who the seller was. But there was this gentleman whose eBay page we can talk about. I mean, whose
Oh,
name
yeah.
is not his government name. We're not going to talk about, but his associated names everyone knows. His Instagram page was Zane Glor, ZANEGLOR_comics. Now it's gone. But when these books were listed on Grails, the consignment page, this gentleman would make comments on these posts talking about how rare they are, how many exist, and it seemed like someone was pumping up his own inventory. But when he
Well,
listed
see,
his, yeah, please.
Manu, we even talked about that on the last episode, like just how incredibly difficult it is to get a 9.8 Mark Jewelers newsstand graded.
Yeah.
Those books are unicorns. They
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
next to impossible to find.
Right.
Absolutely. And for anyone, watching that might not be aware, you mentioned Newsstand. By all Mark Jewelers are newsstands.
Yeah.
By default, there's no such thing as a direct. And then they're so difficult because of their distribution at military bases. Newsstand, there were no bags and boards in those scenarios. These were items that sometimes went overseas and back. They were put into foot lockers. For them to survive in that grade, it's really a feat. And it's something, it's why I got my attention, because I do grade 9.8 Mark Jewelers. It's something that I really love, and I do. And I've been able to, make it happen more than a few times. But I know the difficulty. I know how many copies you have to go through to even get one that's worth submitting, for the shot at the 9.8. So anyway, I'll try to wrap this up because I'm going a little long with the beginning.
It's all right.
of the whole
No,
thing.
it's fine.
But,
Go ahead.
Very few people at this point have heard this story, because this was one of the first stories I told. And so this guy, Zane Glor, he listed a 266, the first Gambit, Mark Jewelers, 9.8 white page on Grills. And he said, there's only 7 of these copies, left a comment. And I DM'd him. This is the first time I had ever spoken to him. This is months ago now. I DM'd him. And I said, how do you know there are 7 of these? They're not broken out on the census. CGC doesn't even know how many of these things they've graded. It's not like they take perfect record of these things. How do you know? And he sent me this message that had me feeling a little funny right away. He said, much like yourself, I know a lot of people. I've been a professional collector. That's what he calls himself, a professional collector of 30 years. And I called in a few favors at CGC, and we've decided, me and the higher ups, that there are 7 of these books.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Very, very.
That's so let me dive into that for a second,
Yeah.
because we're going to get into some pretty deep stuff, guys.
Let's do it.
We're going to get into some new information too, but I want to dissect that for a second. So when you read that, did you see that as him kind of telling on himself that
Not
he
yet.
Or
Okay.
bragging.
Not yet,
No.
because this was months prior to any of these books actually selling, and me noticing that certain number,
Right.
being representing a different
So at
sale.
the time, it just, to you, it looked like some braggart. That
It was
is
a
like,
braggadocious, odd
yeah,
thing to say.
but clearly a lie. He's just
Yeah.
he's full of crap. It's like, come on, man. Yeah, that's how I would have taken it for sure.
Yeah.
You received
Like,
it the
come
same
on.
way I received it, Wes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just read it and I was like, and I told my buddy, I said, this is a guy using a lot of words to tell me he doesn't really know how many there are.
Yeah.
That's what I took
Almost
it
like
as, right? So
Yeah.
I said, well, and then he congratulated me on a recent pickup of a Mark Jewelers, because it was a public pickup and a lot of people saw that I had claimed it. He congratulated me about that. And then he goes on to say, hey, this other book and this other book and all these other books, these are mine too. So if you ever want to make a deal, feel free.
Interesting.
Now it's personal, because that means
Yeah.
I could have potentially become victim, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yes.
months go by. These books do not sell on the consignment page, and they all make it onto eBay, and they start to sell. Again, that $15,700 252 sale happened, made us look into the cert numbers. I saw the $2,247 sale, saw the picture. They're not the same book. My gears start going. What's happening here? This is a switch out. How did it happen? So before jumping to any conclusions, because I still didn't know something, well, actually in my head, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have a way to verify. So I DM'd him again.
There's a lot of speculation going on, but just nothing concrete yet.
Nothing I can substantiate, but a lot of suspicion.
Yeah.
But I have this direct line of communication with him. I have the benefit of knowing who this individual is, and others don't. So I messaged him, voice notes, and I still have those. He deleted all of his messages, but I screenshotted them all. I kept all the receipts. I knew there was something funny, so I have all that.
Good move.
And so I voice note him and I say to him, hey, congratulations on all your recent sales. You're killing it. That's phenomenal. But something interesting, this 252 that sold, when it was purchased 3 months ago, as a newsstand, I actually might have asked him this question before having Dave look for the picture. And I said, that sold for 2,247. Did that sell because it wasn't advertised as a Mark Jewelers, but then wasn't it on the label? Like, how did you know what you were grabbing? And he said, you're right. He said, it wasn't advertised as a Mark Jewelers, and it wasn't recognized to be one until I resubmitted it to CGC, had them verify it, and did a and put, I think he said, oh yeah, had them verify it, and then put a new label on it with Mark Jewelers. Right then and there, he tells me that he did purchase that 252 for 2,247, did submit it, and is now operating under, trying to convince me that the same book was returned. But what do I know? They're not the same book. I can see with my own eyes.
Oh my God. This
And it might have been,
person.
this all happened in 10 minutes, but it might have been the other way around. But regardless,
Yeah.
he tells me that. I go look for the pictures. Dave provides the pictures, and I realize this guy's lying to me, not the same book. So I immediately stop speaking to him. There's no point in speaking to a liar. I already know what I need to know. I put a post.
Wes,
Yeah.
you look like the brother that is hearing about his younger brother that got picked on at school. Like
Yeah.
you're ready to blow, dude.
I hate, there's nothing worse. Well, no, there's a lot of things worse than a liar, but I do hate a liar. And this whole story from start to finish, not just what you're saying, but
Yeah.
from the stuff that we've been reading, the stuff that we've been covering, the videos, the YouTube stuff. I mean, all this stuff is just getting me so damn mad. But anyway, I'm just enthralled in your story right now.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Manu.
No,
I'm
No.
sorry.
I think it's fantastic, and I will jump into my screenshots really quickly here because there is something that I would like to read to you verbatim, because I forgot something. When I called him out on that, when I said, hey, how did you purchase this book? How did you know? There's something else that I have to tell you about what I know about Mark Jewelers.
Yeah.
Anyway, wherever the screenshot is, but one of the things he said, Manu, you're right. He didn't know my name. He said, you're right, but please be discreet. I don't like to pander to the community. And at that point in time, I didn't realize why. Now, obviously, I know why he wanted me to be discreet.
Yeah.
See, what he never anticipated was that when that cert number got updated at CGC as a Mark Jewelers, that the pricing services communicate with that database and automatically recategorized that sale of the standard newsstand to
As
the
a Mark
Mark
Jeweler.
Jewelers section. It was a huge microscope on these two sales, the only time this book had ever sold, and boom, you got 2,000 and 15,000. Come on. Someone like me is going to look into that.
Yeah, it's so huge.
That's what got him caught. It was two things that got him caught. He didn't expect that to happen. He didn't expect me to come around and really dig into anything that has to do with Mark Jewelers, which is what I do. And so carrying on, I verify it's not the same book. I put a post on my story and I say, guys, I just figured something out. It's really messed up. Is profanity allowed on this channel? I'll leave it out anyway.
You're good.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Because it might just come out without me controlling. And I put this
we're past
post up.
the 30-second mark on YouTube now, so we're okay.
Perfect. And I said, I just discovered something. It's really messed up. It's about books. I don't know what my moral obligation is here. I don't know if I'm supposed to speak out. I got to sleep on this. But the next morning I woke up and I knew I had to put that post together because it's way too important. Like I could tell my 15 or 20 friends that care about these books, but this could be bigger than just this book. This guy is selling them one after another. I have to say something. So I made that Instagram post. I used visual aids. I used swipes. I wrote it out for everyone, but I didn't connect every dot because I told individuals in the body, I said, hey, if you think this involves you or affects you, go do your own due diligence. You figure out who it is and you figure out what you might have bought from them. My job is done. I'm showing you the proof. I thought that would be it for me. That wasn't, because after that post went, man.
Dude, it went to Swaggle House and Awesome Comics and Swaggle House. I'm sorry, Awesome Comics.
Automatic Comics, Swaggle, Mighty Comics and Collectibles. It went to Neo Cards and Comics. Shout out to everyone. Como did videos on it. Yep. Shout out to everyone that helped create this awareness. But then when my post was posted onto the forum, the CGC forum, that conversation started and the detectives started to dig. And this guy in his sold listing on eBay had 181s, had 238s, had 266s, had all sorts of big books, everything from $5,000 to $20,000. And so people started piecing this stuff together, and they started figuring out, oh my gosh, with 181s, he's encapsulating in blue labels what were formerly green labels, incompletes. And they're getting put into blue labels.
That's
Yeah.
what I want to ask you about.
Please.
How
Yeah.
the hell did he get past quality control?
The
I mean,
quality control, what
going-
an interesting thing to say.
going
It doesn't
going
exist.
going under the assumption that
Well,
CGC has the type of quality control that they broadcast. How was it possible for him to submit these books as green labels after he did the swap and all that stuff?
Okay, so let's cover the scam first, because
Yeah.
there might be a little confusion there. So let's cover the actual mechanism of it. Now, what people had to be convinced of, which they had to be convinced the hard way, but now they're convinced because
Yeah.
the video went viral, is that these cases are not tamper-proof, right? And there are ways to manipulate. You can either take the inner well completely out, or you can take the label out. It's dealer's choice. Do you
Yeah.
want to switch a label, or do you want to switch a book? It doesn't matter. The idea is pair up a less valuable book with a high value label. Doesn't
Yep.
matter if you do it by a label switch or a book switch. The idea is that. Glue that case shut, do whatever you want, because when you submit it to CGC, you're submitting it under a reholder for a custom label. Now, we have to keep in mind, reholders cost $20 or $50. It is not worth their time to reinvestigate or regrade a book.
Right.
This
That's what I
is
thought
going
too.
to a different chain of employees. These are not graders. These are
Right.
print it out, put it down, put it away, ship it. These are just employees. They are not comic
Wow.
book people. It was a loophole that's now been learned to be abused for over a decade.
It should have never been a loophole to begin with.
It shouldn't have been. That's why we can't just say CGC is the victim. CGC is responsible for their design, for their
Yeah.
system, and their system allowed for this to happen. They have to be
They're-
accountable here.
Mhm.
Yes,
in their
someone
name,
recognized
Not
their
necessarily
name
true.
is Certified Guarantee Company.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yes, somebody recognized a flaw in the system and gamed it, but the flaw is their fault. They should have hired scammers to try to defraud them on
Yeah.
purpose to see where their faults were.
Yeah.
Like when someone builds a website, you hire a hacker and say, find the holes in this thing.
Yeah.
Very true.
And so,
I have to say,
in any case,
yeah.
please. No,
I was gonna say,
stop.
I have to tell you, I'm actually a QA guy by, that's my daytime job. So I've been a QA guy for software for all my life, 30 plus
Okay.
years. And
Okay.
what you just described exactly is a loophole or a fault with the system where they did not have a proper QA in place for that chain of events. Because every scenario that I have to come up with has to accommodate almost every probability. No matter how small that probability is, I have to come up with that probability and
Yeah.
actually test for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So not having that is in the option of their quality control is a fault on them.
Well, see,
Absolutely agree
and
with you.
with that quality control loophole, that has caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages.
It
And
has.
that is
No exaggeration, millions even. It's not far-fetched to say
that
millions.
is insane to even think of. And for a company that prides themselves on grading 85 plus million items and being the standard for third-party grading, to have that kind of a severe lack of quality on their quality control, that is mind-boggling to me. And the fact that this guy was able to manipulate the system so hard that 5% of his ASM 300s marked this are labeled in the system. That's 5%. That's huge.
It is huge.
You
It
know,
is huge.
and there's, you say this guy could be
Right.
these dozen guys, or and over a decade or more. I mean, God knows how many people have come and gone doing that,
Honestly, yeah.
and I'm not trying to throw shade, but it has somebody been doing that with CBCS stuff too, and so all these grading companies right now are going to go, oh shit, we better. Every one of them are like, we're glad CGC is taking the hit right now. Let's fix our stuff like right now, like yesterday,
Absolutely.
Or process.
and so which, like I said on the last show, this creates nothing but question marks on on every graded book that's
Thank
out
you.
there, because you just, at this point, you know, now I know they're doing their best to find these books. I mean, obviously, but
Mhm.
you know, how accurate is that final list going to be? And you know,
Well,
and
let me
so
show you the list. And
Yeah,
Manu,
let's
Yeah.
talk about
and
that.
most of
go
them are
ahead
bigger
and
books, obviously, but
yeah,
at least from this guy.
take a peek at this, guys. So this is the updated, right? And we're gonna have a lot of commentary on this from all four of us.
Mhm.
So this was updated January 3rd, and the listing is here. And this gives you all the information on how to submit an eligible book for review, et cetera, et cetera. But here, the books eligible for holder review. It is insane to look at this. Amazing
Mhm.
Fantasy 15s.
Yeah, the 129s. There were so many of
Yeah,
those.
I know.
amazing Spider-Man number 2, number 3, number 13, all these pre-50 numbers, Amazing Spider-Man number 50, 129, these major books, 194, First Black Cat, and
Yeah,
that list is huge.
Yeah, that
50
was a huge
something of
one.
those.
Exactly, and it just goes. Amazing 238, guys, and that is enormous. And right here, you can see the Mark Jewelers insert at a
Yeah,
9.8 Universal. The
yeah.
Canadian price variant, the 252s, the Mark Jewelers,
Mhm.
right there.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. This entire massive list of 300s. It just goes and goes and goes, and it does not stop. Avengers number 1,
Oof.
Catwoman number 51, Daredevils, these major key issues, Giant Size X-Men, Incredible Hulk 181. You can see where he got incredibly greedy. All of these other books, Journey into Mysteries, Secret Wars number 8. Thank God
Yeah.
mine was not sent in. I know mine wouldn't have been affected, but the point of fact is if it would have come back, that would have been a book I'd have had to question, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
NYX number 3, Tales of Suspense, and then there was this one. It's not on the list anymore, but there was like some odd Michael Turner book.
They actually removed it rather than crossed it out. It's actually removed from the list.
Yeah, so that Aspen Comics book is not on here anymore, and
Huh.
the thing that struck me as odd with that was, like, at first, why would they choose to put that on there? And my rationale on that was that those were books he was trying out first, and it's all alphabetical. So let's see if it's all the way back at the top. We got to go through the 10-mile long 300s. But yeah, my rationale
that
on that, it is
the
not up there.
Catwoman as well.
Yeah, the
So
adventures.
there's a question that people are asking, and that question is, well, what is this list? Is this just every reholder or every submission from one account, from Zane Glor's account,
Right.
his or what exactly is this? How is this list composed? And now the theory about it being every book he submitted is we can squash that right away
If
because
that Aspen
people
book's
have done
not
the
on there.
detective work. And beyond that, I have pictures of books that he was selling to individuals that aren't on the list. Now, that doesn't mean he submitted them, but that raises more
Yeah.
suspicions that he had other accounts that he was using, and other affiliations of his are coming to light now. It's a bad day for a lot of people, unfortunately. And then also, we do this thing in CGC where if your cert number ends in 003, 002, if you're curious to know how many other books and what other books some individual submitted, all you do is go 004, 005, and you just keep looking, right? So there are plenty of books that fall on the left and right, above and below these books that are not on that list. But to give someone a little bit of relief, I will say this as well because it's important to say. There are, yes, 105 or 104 ASM 300s
Yeah.
on that list, majority of which are white page 9.8. So what CGC did not do is tell us how many of those are newsstands. Quite a few of those are newsstands, and that price gap is humongous. I
Mhm.
mean, right now a 9.8 direct is 3K, a 9.8 newsstand is 10 to 15K,
Yeah.
right? Big difference. And in 2021, they were $25,000. A friend of mine bought one that is on the list that is a newsstand for $28,000
Jeez.
Wow.
in July of 2021. That book has already been shipped to CGC. It is already at CGC. It's going to be one of the first books that we see through experience with them, through actually dealing with them, what they do. How do they decide if it's properly encapsulated as a 9.8? Does it deserve the grade? And if it doesn't deserve the grade, we're about to get a firsthand rundown of what do they mean by compensation. Is this guy going to get his 28 grand back? Is he going to get 13 grand back because that's what the book sold for 3 weeks ago? Or is it going to be properly encapsulated as a 9.6 and he gets paid the difference in price? We don't know yet, but we're about
That's
to
a very good statement right there. And that's something that we all talked about and were very concerned with the last time we sat down is what is CGC going to do for compensation? Yeah. That's a lot of money and the statement they made was pretty clear. I mean, as far as on my end, we will provide compensation if there was anything
or you
done.
can look at it as being quite murky as well.
Yeah, generic.
But what's your definition of that?
Yeah.
So Manu, if you don't,
and if they're serving NDAs with their compensation, will we ever know what actually happens? But sorry, Tim.
The last thing I wanted to ask you before my bookend to this particular portion, and this is again speculation on my part, but with whatever you have to say in response to this question will be a little more solid. Do you think that there was anybody inside CGC that was a part of this?
I have not ruled out I can't get rid of that suspicion out of my head. I can tell myself it's not likely, but I can't get rid of that suspicion because so many books of the same books being submitted, to keep that quiet, you might want to make sure your guy or gal on the inside is handling that order. But I can't
Which
speak
leads
to that.
you back
I don't know.
to the
Was this guy
text that you got from, or the DM you got from that guy? Like, I know people. Like, okay.
I know people. I have my relationships at CGC, and I called in a favor. This is the language he used when he was talking to me.
There.
Yeah. So I can't rule that out, and I know CGC is trying to do whatever they're doing in their investigation right now, and hopefully they tell us something. I mean, maybe this guy was a former employee that had a relationship with a friend there still. Well, I mean, that would be the same as an inside person, So, not sure. I can't rule that out. It seems likely that there was somebody making sure that this went smoothly when his books came out.
Well, let me ask you one more thing then. So I lied. This is my last question now, right here. Has CGC reached out to you personally?
Yes. And I can just answer that honestly, yes. And beyond that, I'm waiting until we have a correspondence going right now. The correspondence originally was addressing both Dave and myself. Well, no, it's addressing Dave and myself because we were the voices online going live, giving by the moment sort of updates. And so there is a communication, but you could imagine details are not being shared with us because they are keeping tight-lipped in the idea that they can't at the moment. Legally, they can't tell us squat because they know I'm going to run right to YouTube with it anyway.
Or come on a show like this and let everybody know.
Yeah, but they are grateful. So they say, the original email says, "Thank you so much, Manu and Dave, for helping us or shining a light on this for us." Whatever it was. Basically, they wanted to say, "Oh, I'm so mad at you, but I'm going to send you this email saying thank you."
You totally screwed us, but okay.
Yeah, exactly, right. So to answer that question, yes, there is a communication. Is there any weight to that communication? Not yet, but there will be. As soon as they are able to tell us more, they want to tell us more because they want us to be the voice that releases their message to the ground level, to the collectors on the floor, right? Or what, the people that really want to hear it instead of these statements. And it has a nice sentiment too, for it to be delivered directly to me and Dave and for us to speak it to the community. Now, I'm not going to allow them to use us to manipulate the community to make it sound sincere because we're communicating the message. We're not going to play around. If it sounds like horseshit, we're going to say it sounds like horseshit, but we'll deliver it.
That's the thing why you have a lot of people with their ear to your Instagram, right? Because what you're saying is genuine. You're not hiding. the fact that CGC screwed up, and they screwed up big time, and you are being very honest and very open, and that is important to a lot of people, especially in a realm where you have people that love to be dishonest and love to be very manipulative and shady. We don't get that from you. We get the facts, we get the truth. This is how it is. You figure it out from there.
Have you gotten?
And this is what we want from grading. We want transparency. That sorry.
No. I was just going to ask if you've gotten some bodyguards, because CGC is going to send their Black Ops guys out, possibly to take you out. You know, because
the Pinkertons.
They're going to send the Pinkertons after you.
I've been very aware of my
Like, why is there a black sedan following?
He is of sound mind and body, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there are people out there that were making a lot of money for a long time, and that might have come to a quick halt.
It's like that.
There might be some prison time coming for some people.
Oh, there will be, but it's like the thing that the mayor of Gotham said in The Dark Knight. You're about to make a whole lot of people's pockets get very lighter.
Yeah, and they shouldn't have been able to pat him for that long to begin with. Not at the. I really love our community. I really love collecting. I really love selling as well, and I want to do it with integrity. When there's a dishonest actor, a bad actor, it ruins it for all of the good guys too. Mostly, you're screwing people. You're putting a bad taste in their mouth. They're hesitant. They're reluctant. We are learning a valuable lesson, though, which makes for a stronger community in the long run. Someone said to me the other day, they were like, what do you want to do? Just get rid of third-party grading? You want to go back to raw books? First, I'd like to say this. I am a huge supporter of third-party grading. I know why it exists. I love it. I think it's gotten out of hand. We slab a bunch of crap that should never be slabbed. It's completely useless slab. These modern books that come out where they're only 59.8, so we're going to guarantee they're 9.8. So what the fuck is the point of it being a 9.8?
I'm looking at some of my C covers right now with a tear. Okay,
I got a lot of slabs too.
I understand that, right? Like some of these books that I get slabbed have zero value beyond the cost it gets to slab. But I think that those books, like our comrade. Our friend, Uncle Gary, our brother here at Codex, he says these are modern art masterpieces, and they, I believe, deserve to be displayed in such a manner.
Hey, that's how I feel about my slabs, actually. I really do.
Yeah, and I don't actually disagree, because I have those sorts of books in my collection as well. But the reason I illustrate that or bring that up is because that gave CGC what's the proper word
Carte
here?
blanche.
It did. It just gave them too much power. It's like, if we screw a couple of things up, it's all right, because 20,000 books that are only worth $75 are being slabbed with us all the time. And so it's keeping the lights on. People sending in AF-15s for restoration removal is not what's paying the bills.
No.
Okay,
it's true.
It's the fact that it's become commoditized. It's become this sort of like, you don't have to think about it. It's a 9.8. You trust it's a 9.8. It's pretty. You buy it. It's become a pretty thing, and I'm not opposed to pretty things. I like them, but it's become so laxed and so we aren't scared about our purchases anymore. We don't think about them too much. We've become too normal. It's become too normalized to encapsulate, and that gave them too much power, right? And now we kind of have to pull back and say, hey guys, you got to remember, if CGC goes away, the collecting community still exists. But if you screw up so bad that the collecting community goes away, CGC is gone too.
Right.
That's exactly.
This is not a symbiotic relationship. It's actually one way. They work for us. We pay them. They provide a service. But we've given them too much power. We've let them get away with too much. We've become too forgiving because of our pretty things. We have to, for a second, step back and say, maybe the shiny new book, maybe we got to do without it for a while, because they got to feel it in the pocketbook, or else they're not going to do anything.
That's very true. That's very true.
Because I like shiny things too. It's not that, but I think in this all, we are creating a more sophisticated thought process for a lot of collectors, right? And of course, this scam and these sort of reholders, and even the people that are just opening and closing and resealing slabs and selling them to someone that's not detail oriented, doesn't know what to look for, they are preying on people with deep pockets that are buying, very expensive stuff. Our $100, $200 slabs, they're safe. No one's messing with those, but CGC still ruins those from time to time. We'll send in a nice new book, and the grader will handle it carefully. But when it gets into the encapsulation department, that's when it gets a finger bend. That's when it gets crimped into the encapsulation, And another thing that's kind of frustrating, and I like that this is putting a shining a light on the case and the fact that the encapsulation has much room for improvement. There's a misconception. The misconception is once a book is encapsulated, it's safe. Absolutely not. Anytime you ship an encapsulated book, that book is at big risk for damage. And then people say to me, well, how does the book get damaged in the case if the case doesn't break? Well, I'll tell you why. If the book is bubble wrapped up and the box drops enough, well, the case might not break, but energy still has to transfer. And the thing where the energy can't go anywhere else is the book itself. And that book is going to fly into a corner of that inner encapsulation, and it's going to bend. It happens all the time. 9/8 are not 9/8 after they take that sort of damage in shipping.
Right.
So a book being encapsulated does not mean it's safe. So I make that argument to people. I did it to keep it safe. Your book's actually safer in a bag and board. To be honest, when you ship a book in a bag and board, you can isolate it and insulate it in a way that it has no damage that it could possibly take. It just depends on how big of a box you're willing to shove all of this protective material into, right? Your book is guarded, but in that case, there is no amount of packaging that we can do that will prevent the book from moving around if it bumps enough, period. And that happens too often, so they need to improve that as well. Because the truth is, $1 million book is in the same encapsulation as $100
as a
book.
$30 book.
As a $30 book.
That's so
got
true.
The same level of security for the same for vastly different items.
So let me ask you this. Oh, go ahead, Sal. I'm asking a lot of questions, man. So
no. You're probably going to go along the same vein that I'm about to bring up here. Is what does CGC got to do to make sure that there's going to be that these loopholes or these problems or issues are going to be rectified and mitigated in the future? What do they got to do, and more importantly, how are they going to communicate that out? How are they going to tell them, say, hey, this new case now, this is going to be the new standard going forward, whatever it is.
There's layers to this conversation.
There's a lot of layers to this conversation.
But I mean, like even with that, to add on to that, Sal, do they continue to use the same case for a $30 graded book as they would a $7.5 million graded book, right? That's a big number. It's astronomical. But the point remains, do they now change the cases for these high dollar pedigree books while we, the commoners, still use the regular ones?
Well, I don't, to answer you on that one,
I don't think that would be a good idea. But
I don't think it'll be a good idea anyhow to just.
But that would add an additional layer of security if that's something they.
It would, but then what if I want to sit? What if I'm sitting in my $30 book and say, you know what? I don't care. I've got deep pockets. I'll pay the extra money. Put it in that big case for me.
Okay.
What's it?
and a $20 book today could be a $2,000 book tomorrow.
That is also true.
And the rate these movies come out and the hype. And, so I don't know if that would be the answer. I know you weren't asking me specifically, but I think for me, I
was looking directly into your soul.
Oh, thank you. I think the first step is to completely and utterly revamp the reholder process.
Oh,
absolutely.
Which includes a regrade, unfortunately, for us customers.
Mandatory regrade, perhaps, anytime a book comes back to Sarasota for anything at all.
If they have or something, when they have possession of that book for the second, third, fourth time, this is now the third time it's got graded. Sorry, and somebody's got to pay for it, and it's probably going to be us. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But
but that might not be the worst thing.
Agreed. Right? But if that gives people going forward the peace of mind we need, the peace of mind that we demand for this type of stuff, because I love a raw book all day long, but I love my slabs. I love them.
I know,
and
me too.
There's just something about them. Anyway, so for me, that would be step number one, and that's a big step, and that would be I think that's very important for the rest of the slabbing and grading community as well. And it's just as simple as that. And unfortunately, I do seriously believe that those costs will be passed along to the customer. But if that means the peace of mind, okay, I guess, and now you be careful what you send back, just
Right.
unfortunately,
Let's dig into that just a little bit.
world we're living in probably coming pretty soon.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. And so to dig into that, the first step being really analyzing the reholder process and revamping it, right? What does that mean? What are the ramifications? What is the ripple effect of that? If a book has to get regraded every time that it comes in, obviously, costs are going to go up because now a grader has to put eyes on it. So that's an inconvenience for the existing collector, existing slab holder as it is, because now we're going to, we'll accidentally crack a slab and we have to think, oh my gosh, is this 9/8 going to stay a 9/8? Because grading is subjective, right? So now we have to really give ourselves this, we have to think hard about, it's going to cost more now. It's going to take more time to turn it around now.
I think that would lead to caution, though, for people that are trying to bump grades, though.
Tell me, what do you mean?
Like, if in the instance that the slab cracks or breaks or whatever, like in the hypothetical that we're talking about, it has to be sent in and regraded once again. For the people that are trying to pull the book out, crack the slab, get it repressed and cleaned, remove restoration or whatever the case, to attempt to get a grade bump for resell, that would give them pause to try and do that. Then, because
it's going to affect all sorts of gamuts of the collecting world.
Yeah,
for sure.
that's what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, and cracking and pressing is a huge part of this hobby. It's very fun to identify something that's under, that hasn't been made as good as it can. You can imagine that it could get a higher grade. This is part of the sport, and we engage in it a lot. Now, the good thing about cracking and pressing is we generally crack them out on our own and just submit as a standard, book submission. So it doesn't actually have to go through the reholder. The only time a candidate for a CPR has to revisit CGC in its encapsulation is if it's a signature series, because nothing on a yellow label can happen without them doing it themselves. And which I have done with success. I've taken very valuable 9/6s, wrote notes all over them with sticky paper, sent it to CGC for a press and said, hey, mitigate this dent, mitigate this bend. And I think this has a shot at a 9/8. And I've taken 9/6s into 9/8s completely without me having to do anything. I don't crack it out. I just ship them the book. Now, there's some other philosophy there as well. It's like, when you keep paying them for services, do they just give you a little bit of a favor every now and then? I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But me, I'm usually dealing with the stuff that I know can get the grade. I'm not submitting things and hoping I get the grade. I'm submitting things that I think are properly aligned for that grade. I'm not looking to waste my time. I'm not looking to resubmit over and over and over again, which sometimes you have to do to get the grade that you want, because grading is subjective. But so the reholder process, for sure, that has to be reevaluated entirely. For the time being, they should probably just put a pause on it until they figure it out, but I don't know what they're doing. We'll have to wait and see. Now, when we get into this new case situation, though, now, first, I am of the belief that I want to see one case for everything, and it should be good enough for a $10 million book, and obviously that'd be fine for a $10 million book.
I agree.
I don't want to see two types of cases, because that creates a division in the community. I'm better than you. I got the bigger, better case. Listen, your books already create enough division. Let's not have the case do the same thing.
I agree.
Like when the teacher separates everybody with blue eyes and brown eyes and green eyes.
Yeah, stop doing that.
What teacher did you have?
And so,
have you not heard or read
the story?
I just went along with it. I was
you know what I'm talking about, though.
I'm going with it.
It's okay. Call him out on this. Call him out on this crap. It's
oh my god.
So when this new case
all that's
comes
getting
out,
edited out.
If and when this new case comes out, that case is going to trade for a premium, no doubt.
I know.
That case is going to cost us more money, no doubt, because engineering, tooling, the equipment required, the molds, all of these things that they're going to have to upfront pay for. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, which, by the way, they have.
Told you guys.
They're worth $500 million. You know, CCG, the parent company, is now owned majority by, was it Blackstone, the investment firm? Is it BlackRock or Blackstone?
I think it's Blackstone.
Whatever the name is.
I'll look that up while
Blackstone.
you're continuing.
Sure. If I remember correctly, they bought over 50% for $250 million. So they didn't give us the exact amount, but that definitely lets you know that they are now majority holders, and it cost them $250 million to buy over 50%. We could have roughly assumed that it was a $500 million valuation at that time. That's if I remember those numbers correctly. That was like a year and a half ago. I don't know. In any case is going to come out. That's going to trade at a premium. Everybody with an older case is going to be like, wait, does that mean my case is worth less? Do I have to send this case in? See, the unfortunate truth here is, as individuals like myself and perhaps you guys as well, that have your book raw, submit it, get it graded, you know that that's the right book. Books are identifiable for us. We know when we get the wrong book.
It's Blackstone,
you know.
By the way,
Blackstone,
Jay-Z
right.
and Blackstone.
Okay. Jay-Z is a small investor. He's not small, but Jay-Z is he has
money in CGC's parent company, Certified Collectibles Group, and Blackstone is the majority shareholder. Yeah,
correct, right. And so now it is unfortunate, but with it being proven that these cases can be taken apart, put back together, I'm going to give you a really terrifying example in real life in a second. I have something here to show you. When we grade a book ourselves, we know it's legit. We submitted it, it's back, we know it's legit. And we can sell that. I'm harping on provenance lately. You know, the history of the book. Where did it come from? Being able to prove that you owned it raw. That's going to be worth more. That's going to be like a one owner car. That's the Carfax. This is the comic facts now.
Chain of custody.
Right? Again, this doesn't
like a chain of custody type thing.
A chain of custody, absolutely right. And so, but once you sell it, you're able to capitalize on the fact that you knew where it was yours. But what happens when it trades hands after that? They're not the original submitter of the book. It could be swapped out at any point in time once it leaves your custody. Right? True. Because the cases themselves can be opened and resealed, and not everybody is savvy. People can't even tell 9.2s from 9.8s. They certainly can't tell a tampered case from a non-tampered case. That's why the grading company exists in the first place, because people can't tell a very fine from a near mint.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, so that is a major, major problem. Any high dollar, high value book that leaves your collection is subject to scrutiny. You do not know. So does that mean if you're going to buy a big book that it has to be sent back to CGC for them to re-verify that it is what the label said, since it can be swapped at any point in time? I don't know. So what do they call that thing? They call it, what is the process called? Hydrosealing? No, whatever, the machine they use. So I bought a book from eBay, and this is a CGC case. The sticker, the hologram.
Let me get you front and center here, so that way people can see exactly what you're looking at. There you go.
So I bought a book from eBay. There's the CGC case. There's the holographic sticker. That's on the where is that exactly?
That's on inside, but
inside.
It's like inside the inside. That's crazy. It's I could feel it. It's right there. It's on the outside. Okay. It's just a really thin sticker. So in any case, I bought this book from eBay, whatever was in here. It's over there somewhere. I take it out of its bubble wrap. I was going to crack it out anyway. That's why I bought it. But the case was open.
Ooh.
And when I mean open, I don't mean open like somebody opened it. I mean it was never sealed.
Like it missed some quality control.
It missed quality control. So check this out. That little area that's supposed to melt shut when they do the, I forget the word. It was never melted shut.
Have you put this on your Instagram yet?
No, I've shown this to people in YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like, I'm not sure what the heck happened here, but this also makes me think, because somebody did bring something to my attention. I think it was on Alibaba. I don't remember. It was one of those wholesale sites that you buy things from overseas.
Like Temu and stuff like that?
Something like that. They were selling CGC encapsulation.
Wow. Are you kidding me?
Oh my
And
God.
what the question I had for him, though, I said, but did they have the sticker on them? And the person that gave me the information couldn't remember.
Oh,
This could just be fake.
yep.
This could be faked, yeah.
This could literally just be fake.
Jeez.
I
And
don't
Alibaba,
like a
that's the
whole-
Chinese company, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
got a whole
Yeah.
new
That's the
layer
Chinese
of
Amazon, basically.
Well, and the
Yeah.
thing is if you give the molds to Chinese companies, I think there's some kind of stipulation that the molds then become the property of the People's Republic of China, and they can do whatever they want with it. That's why you have all of those knockoffs of G.I. Joes and Transformers figures and things like that that are still coming out today, because China owns the molds and they can do whatever they want with them.
right.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. And I just show this to say that there are variety of
Yeah.
things to look out for.
Yeah.
You know, potentially fake cases, tampered with cases. But the whole reholder process loophole, that's just laundering your
Yeah.
case. You're literally laundering your book. You're tampering with the book. You're sending it in. You know it's going to go to a chain of
Yeah.
employees that doesn't pay any attention because they're just there to deal with plastic and paper, not the book itself. And then your book gets re-encapsulated with a factory sealed CGC case with a new label. It's laundered now.
Wow.
It is a clean book now, but it is not.
Your
in fact.
book is laundered.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
Wow.
there are a lot of reasons why it's
Man.
really important that the initial discovery that the 252 made me realize leads to all of this stuff. And it's so important to keep talking about it, because this sort of concern from the community is the only way we're going to get an actual trusted third-party
Yeah.
grading company somewhere down
Yeah.
the line. These things have to be taken care of. And I tell everybody, it's going to become uncomfortable. Dealers want this to be swept under the rug.
Yeah.
They want this thing to go
Because
away.
that's money.
I get
That's
it.
money being
There's the
taken
whole
away from them.
inventory of CGC
Yeah.
cases. You know, if they're a slab seller, they're 97% CGC, 3% CBCS, if any at
Yeah.
all.
That's
No
very true.
PGX, ladies
They-
and gentlemen.
Oh yeah, no PGX. I mean, every now and then I like to pick a little bit of PGX up when they miss
Yeah.
something that I recognize and I'm taking advantage
yeah.
of their negligence. But I would never submit to the garage grading company. No thanks.
Well, let's kind of circle halfway back and go back into, so with this being an update episode, let's get some updates. Let's get some brand new information. We've
Right. All right.
we've
So
gotten the statements from CGC thus far. Go Collect has even put out their statement. And if you haven't
Yeah.
seen that, ladies and gentlemen, you can go on their Instagram page or their Facebook page and bring it up, and it'll show you that they parrot what CGC has said. And in addition to that, if I remember right, they said they would also offer compensation too, or something along those lines.
Go
I
Collect?
believe so.
Why would they offer?
No. They don't have any financial burden.
Well,
on
I'll
this.
double check
Yeah.
that here in a second. But the question I wanted to ask you is what type of new information can you provide today having to do with this whole fiasco?
Okay, so I'm going to fill in a couple of new informations from the last week, but I'm going to go to the most recent first.
Got it.
All right.
The most recent is there are affiliates coming to light, or accomplices, I don't know, people involved with the known scammer.
Yeah.
Dots are being connected, and it's damning evidence. And I'm not going to go as far as saying any establishments' names or any other individuals.
Right. And I don't want you to compromise anything like that.
Investigation or anything
Yeah.
like that too.
You know, it went exactly, and that's important too. But oh my gosh, the pictures are bad.
Wow.
You know, the books. I have communication with buyers from Zanglor that have spent over 6 figures with him,
Ooh.
and they've sent me screenshots of everything that he offered them.
Mhm.
Right, and a lot of times it's on the same background, but there's another set of pictures as well where he's holding these books up in front of a mirror. Now, other things can be seen in mirrors as well.
Real quick. Wow. Hold that thought real quick. I want to
Yeah.
clarify what I had to say with Go Collect, and you in fact are right on that. So,
Right.
And we'll talk more
yeah,
about
I
that.
just want to bring that up real quick so people can see that. So that way I'm not giving any misleading information. Here's Go Collect statement right there.
Wait.
What?
Well, no one's gonna be able to read that, Tim.
Yeah, they will. Just pause the video.
I can summarize it really
Yeah.
quickly. They realize that the fact that they keep pictures for all of their sold
Yeah.
listings, helped the community greatly in comparing old sales with new sales and identifying that the cert numbers are the same, but the books in fact are not. So they are actually taking that a step further. They're going to make sure that every single listing sale possible associated with cert number has images. They're going to identify the fraudulent books, but not remove them. They're going to mark them as fraudulent, but keep them there for investigative purposes so we can reflect that. And they're going to make those services available for free without a subscription.
There you go.
Nice.
So they're serving the community.
Nice.
Now back
Well
to
done.
the pictures.
So there are so many books that this gentleman was distributing that are not on that list, and we're talking big books. Like I said, I have friends that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I want to be friends with your friends.
Yeah.
We're yes, we'll make it happen. So people start asking, did this guy used to sell at conventions? In fact, he
Ooh.
did. Well, then people started asking, well, who did he set up with? Dots were connected. And then we landed on a certain comic book store's page, and people started digging. Let me tell you, the pictures of Zane Glor's books are deep in that page.
That is a speculation that Wes brought up on the last episode of Slabbed. That there was a great possibility.
Okay, Batman, settle down.
Could be involved.
No, Wes, kudos.
Yeah, man, good job.
Yeah.
He did call it.
There's if you on my this is
Golly.
out there, but it's in niche communities right now. It's not publicized widely yet. But the people that are deep in the weeds with this thing, they already know. But I posted this on my Instagram story last night, and I did not mention who the store is. But this picture on my Instagram story, this video, are a bunch of huge yellow label books. We're talking the first Hulk, the this, the that, the Journey in the Mid, like all these things that even I'm unfamiliar with because I really live in the 80s and 90s, and I'm just starting to get into silver.
Gary needs to be in on this.
Yep.
In that picture, with what I could only imagine is $100,000 worth of books, there's a heat gun.
I saw that. Holy shit. It is like right there. This red.
That picture. So far, over 1,000 people have seen, well, thousands of people have seen that picture because certain videos have thousands of views. Some of my content has thousands of engagement points with that. But people have come out and they said, this seems like they're trolling. Someone is just trying to get a little bit of attention with all this recent activity. This is a setup. And I tell them, I'm not exposing where this picture is from because I'm not ready to do that. But that picture is from 2020.
4 years ago. God almighty.
Wow.
That's just the photo. I have communications from 2012 between individuals and this guy. This guy has listings on different marketplaces, always uses the same verbiage, vernacular, whatever. I don't know. Always uses the same words. $, $, the hard work is done already, meaning it's already your 9.8. And he's been using that language since 2014, I believe, was the earliest post that I had.
So this has been going on potentially for the
at least
past 10 to 12 years.
And this, again, is just us digging into one person.
Holy shit.
This is just us digging into one person. Listen, CGC would never have come out and confessed that hundreds of books are possibly fraudulent to some degree.
This has got to be
thousands. They would never have exposed that vulnerability.
Tens of
They're
thousands.
doing that because the possibility is actually much larger. If it was actually only 300 books, they would have said a couple. But when they say a couple hundred, they know that this is potentially thousands and thousands of books. Oh, this is something I wanted to cover. Sorry to backtrack, but I wanted to say this as a little bit of relief for some.
We got nothing but time, baby. Take all the time you need.
I'm going to use ASM 300, and I'm going to use the fraud that takes you from a 9.8 direct to a 9.8 newsstand. I'm going to show you how it's done, what it, so on and so forth. We don't even have to use that example, but that's the example I'm going to use. But actually, I'll keep it simple. I'll just do a 9.4 newsstand, 9.4 direct to a 9.8 direct, and the reason that's fine to do is because the values in 2021 for direct 300s was like $8,000.
Yeah.
It got to, it was expensive enough to do the fraud just on a direct edition. It was worth it. So you first have to buy a 9.8 newsstand, 9.8 ASM 300, a clean direct edition 9.8, because the cert number has to be cleanly associated with the clean book, right? And then you have to buy a lower grade one because it still has to be in the inner well, right? So it has to be a CGC graded lower grade book. Let's just call it a 9.4. Huge difference in price, right? A decent looking 9.4, right? You then take that one out of the inner well, put it into the encapsulation where the label reads 9.8. You then submit that for the reholder. That one comes back as a 9.8, but with the dirty book inside, but you're now laundered that book. Of course, you still have the original clean 9.8 that you bought that you slipped out. In order to turn that into money, that book, which is a real 9.8, because you bought a good looking one to begin with, has to be resubmitted. And it gets a clean cert number, and it is a clean real 9.8. Some of the books on that list are the donor books re-encapsulated. They are actually 9.8s, but they're just subject to scrutiny because they're from this account.
But they're not under their original cert number.
They're not, but they are actually
true,
going to be submitted to CGC, and CGC is going to say, no, this is good, and give it back.
Wow.
Oh, they're going to give it a new cert number, though, because you do not want one of these tainted
God,
cert numbers.
No. Jesus.
So, sorry, I just wanted to mention that so that everyone doesn't think that 106 9.8s are all 9.4s. No. Some of them are actually 9.8s because you need to have the donor book.
Yeah. My God.
Wow.
10 to 12 years.
So back to the new information. So right now people are and I'll tell you what else. I don't think the comic book store that we're talking about is aware that the deep in community is talking about them, because all of those pictures are still on their Instagram page. You could go to their page right now and scroll down and see all of Zanglor's books.
Oh my God.
Including the picture with the heat gun.
They'll figure it out.
I saw it today.
Oh, wow. Okay. And today is January 10th, ladies and gentlemen. So as of today,
January 10th,
wherever those
they still don't know that people are sniffing around.
Wherever those pictures are at on Instagram, I'm sure there's some eagle-eyed viewers out there that can find it, but it's still there. That's interesting.
I don't work on my own books. I have a relationship with a friend that works on my books for me, but he doesn't use heat guns for anything. And in fact, when we crack a book out of a case, we don't care if the case is destroyed. Yeah. Our objective is not to put it back in the damn case. We're not trying to carefully open it. We want to submit the book to CGC raw, naked. We want a new grade on it. And so we've never tried to figure out how to cleanly open a case. What in the hell would someone need a heat gun for other than what was illustrated to us by Immaculate Comics, a week and a half ago?
Pop those pegs. So
to get those pegs, because they have to shrink up in the heat to come out without shattering.
And that's what action figure enthusiasts and collectors use to soften joints, to get them more malleable and usable. For stiff joints on your figures, you either run them under hot water. Can't do that with slab because there's paper in there, or you use a heat gun to soften the plastic. And that they've been doing that for decades.
And now I do have to say, even if the name of this establishment becomes publicized, it's still very important to say, we don't know if they were just, victim to this guy, like being used by this guy. Maybe they didn't know what was happening. Now that, we're giving someone the benefit of the doubt, but listen, you've been getting away with this for 10 years. You told a few of your buddies about how much money you're making.
Yeah.
You definitely did. And a few of your buddies probably said, hey, how can I get in on this?
Man, there's some serious jail time coming for some people, man. Oh my God.
It is insane.
I have a feeling a lot of people are going to get swept up in this, but whatever.
Ladies and gentlemen, check out.
We didn't do it, know.
I know. No, I'm not feeling bad for them. I'm just like, good. I have been reading and looking and seeing this for 2 weeks, and I'm still floored. Every time I think about it. Yeah.
It makes me feel a little more comfortable in the fact that with the minimal amount of information that us three had last week, we were able to put enough of the dots together to figure some of this out.
Yeah.
And with you coming on here tonight and sharing that information with us, that reconfirms that the fears that we had were justified. And
Right.
to the last episode, we couldn't even fathom the fact that a comic book company could really be involved in this, but
Right.
now it's
It's
insane.
very possible. I mean, they were definitely involved, meaning they're friendly
Yeah.
with each other. You know, his books are represented on this
Oh,
comic book
yeah.
store's page. They've set up at cons and stuff. Like, the involvement is there. What we don't know is, were they in the know?
Were they
Right.
implicit or were they
Yeah.
victims themselves?
But that heat gun in
Yeah,
the
and so
background, I mean, that's pretty
what the
telling.
heck was the heat
smoking
gun
heat
there
gun.
for? Why do you have $100,000 worth of the smoking heat gun? That's the smoke. That is
Wow.
good, Wes. That's good.
What can I say?
But
Right here on
yeah,
Codex,
so
ladies and
that's
gentlemen.
Yeah.
The smoking heat
there it
gun.
is. You
Next
heard it here
week on-
first.
So are we gonna see constant updates from CGC with list updates? I would like to say
hope
2 months down the road, they're gonna come out and say, oh, another 350 books were affected, or whatever. And then another 2 months down the road again, oh, another 50 books that we have found that were fraudulent, blah, blah, blah. Are they gonna keep releasing this? Or at some point they're gonna just be like, okay, I think we've done enough damage. We're just gonna stop.
That is a question that I've sent them in an email.
Yeah.
And, we'll see what they respond with, because we obviously don't know what they're going to
Mhm.
do.
Right.
But they have to update that list. If they don't, the community is going to do the same. They're going to start from scratch again.
Right.
It's going to be
Right.
like, wait, we just showed you 500 more books. How are you not putting it on the list? We'll make our own list then.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. The
CGC
community has really come together on
smart
this thing.
enough to know that the people that they're dealing with, comic book nerds, are not
Yeah.
going to let this go.
Yeah.
They're not. They're not going to stop worrying
We
about
have-
it. And
No.
oh well,
No.
One of the things I'm really afraid of is if they come out. Let's say they come out with like a new case that's higher tamper proof, not tamper resistant, but harder to tamper in the future.
Sure.
I just
Sure.
have this bad feeling that because there's evil in the world, there's going to be people out there saying, "Oh, it's tamper proof, is it?"
That is their challenge to
Yeah, and
prove
it's
in
challenge
fact
accepted.
that it is
And
not.
they're going to try to do the same thing. They may not get away with it. They may do a smaller book because they're not looking to make profit,
Yeah.
but they're probably just looking to do it just to say they did it.
What-
Yeah, it's going to have to. Sorry,
Oh,
carry on, please.
No. What I was going to say is, if that's the case, I hope it's people like you, Manu, and others that will show just how not tamper-proof it is, right? Because I was talking to somebody the other day about this, and I was showing them the video that is on Instagram of how using a heat gun to soften the pegs and all that, and they're like, why would they show that? I'm like, why wouldn't they show that? That is something that
It's so important to show
needs
it.
to be shown.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
absolutely. And the whole idea of the simple thought that, oh, you showed it, now you just showed a bunch of people how to do it. Duh. My response to that is I could only humor it with
Yep.
duh. Now let's become more sophisticated. Now let's think on a higher level, please. We get that. But at first, only the bad guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Now everybody
And that
Right.
goes back to what you said about the community coming together. We really have.
Yep.
I get riled up.
No.
Yeah,
Do
because-
it, man.
On my
a few people they called me and they said, what do you think you're doing? Big time dealers, people that I have respect for, I have relationships with. They
Yeah.
called me, Manu, what are you doing? You're going to screw everything up. I said, brother, I'm not here just because your ship is sailing smooth,
Mhm.
not to, tell people what's going on. I care more about the community members that are getting ripped off for $10,000 at a time than I do about your $1 million a year business.
Exactly.
I do not care. I'm with the community first.
Yeah.
I'm not loyal to some company. I do not care if CGC goes under or not. Collectors are collectors whether companies exist or not. I am here because I'm a collector first. When I was 7, I was a collector. That's why I'm here. That matters to me. Because if our community gets so disgusted, upset, hurt, and goes away, well, who the hell am I going to collect with?
Yeah.
I need we need to protect what we have. This is our It's a family. It's a lovely thing when you could bond with someone over nostalgia, over something nerdy, something geeky. Come on, what is
I've got a
better than
stack
that?
of 28 signature books here that I'm going to show you when we go off air, and we will bond together, my
Awesome.
friend.
So
Yes.
I want
You
to
know,
circle
so
back to your case point. Cracking them
yeah,
open is sometimes not that easy. They actually do crack. I have my own channel
of
where
course, yeah.
I actually crack some slabs because I picked up a couple of slabs where the case was cracked in the back. You can clearly tell, and I knew it was that way. I bought it cheap that way, but I managed to get the
Mhm.
book out simply just doing some screwdrivers. But some cases just kind of like shattered. Some of them I got to pop open with a screwdriver only.
Mhm.
But most of the time,
Mhm.
the slab case does crack.
Yeah.
So
Most of the time it
Yeah.
does. Which, you know, it's really great that it does,
Yeah.
right? Like you shouldn't be able to just put the thing back together.
Right.
And so maybe this new case that they come out with, like maybe it completely disintegrates
Yeah.
when you attempt, like
Right.
maybe
Well,
it has to be designed such that it completely falls apart if open. Like you can open it if you want, but just know
Yeah.
it's never going to be put back
It's
together
going to
once
be
you
like
was
open it.
suggesting-
windshield glass.
yeah. In our previous episode,
Yeah.
I was suggesting some type of like tag that's inside the case that rips, and there's no possible way to fake it or
I've heard that suggestion from you. Yeah.
or reattach it somehow to make it look still intact. It's like a
Yeah.
warranty is voided when torn type of
Well,
type
it's
of
it's
thing.
Absolutely.
it's like
You know?
on the old VHS tapes, right? When
Yep.
when you open the VHS tape, you have to peel the tab back, and when you do that, it
That's
leaves a
correct.
perforation on the tape and on the
Yep.
box itself, but you can remove the sticker. Once you do that, then you can do whatever you want with it,
Yeah,
but that
somehow
will
that's
always
gonna have
be there.
somehow that's gonna have to be on the inside of the case though, because you don't want
Mhm.
those accidentally
I
getting
know.
damaged from the outside.
I know. I'm not an
'Cause, yeah.
engineer.
Yeah.
I'm only an
Oh,
idea
great
guy. I'm
point.
not
Oh,
an
yeah,
engineer,
yeah.
so I
Because it
don't
would
know.
suck to accidentally damage the damn thing. Like, golly, I just decertified my book
And
because I
the
rubbed
good
up
news for us is right, exactly, right? And then you just send it back saying it was an accident,
Yeah.
right? But the good news for us is this is CGC's problem to figure out. We're just not going to give
Yeah.
up until they figure it
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
That's very true.
right?
That's true.
You know, we just have to keep giving them hell until they actually respect the community
100%.
and what the community has done for that business. We built that
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
You know, and we're allowing it to continue because we love slabbing books. It's fun. It's amazing. It's a great time to go for that grade and accomplish
Right.
it. It's really amazing. You know, I'm a huge fan of Wizard magazine.
I saw
Yes.
that.
You
I
know,
saw that. I
and
want that book so bad.
you know, I'm a huge fan of Wizard magazine newsstands. I literally have 6
Oh.
or 7 slabs here that are all Wizard magazine newsstands.
Wow.
And I'm
All number
a huge
ones.
supporter.
Holy cow.
Oh yeah, number one is my favorite
Yeah.
one. McFarlane cover, the Wizard Spidey,
Yeah.
you know, the absolute nostalgia
Ooh.
of a Wizard magazine.
I haven't
Yep.
seen a number one since
this
I was a kid.
look, I don't want to sidetrack this. I have, in my personal opinion, the most important Wizard of all. Actually, I have 2 things that I would deem to be the most important. One is the actual office copy.
Ooh.
It is just printed and it is in like a high school folder, like you would do a science
Yeah.
report where it's clear on one side and like a color on the back side. And Gareb Shamus, the founder of Wizard, has verified it for me and asked me, where did you get that? And the only other one known, his brother owns, and it's currently for sale on eBay for $5,000, which I think is too cheap,
Wow.
but no one knows what it is, so no one's buying it, right?
Wow.
But it's so rare that I think that's too cheap. Now, but the thing that I had that I really love, when there were only 4 9/8 on the census, the Wizard census blew up in the last 2 years because enthusiasm built up. There was a McFarlane signing, and I sold hundreds of them. I was buying hundreds of them while no one was, and then I sold them.
Wow.
Kept the best ones for myself, and then graded those and sold those, but kept the few. The one that I kept that I'm not parting with until someone pays me to make me part with it price. When there were only 4 9/8 on the census, because Wizard 1 comes in 3 variations: Direct Edition, Newsstand, and SDCC. Out of all those variations, there were only 4 9/8 on the census, signed, yellow label. I have the 9/8 that's signed by Stan Lee and Todd McFarlane.
Wow.
Wow.
It is the only 9/8 Wizard signed by Todd McFarlane. I mean, signed by Stan Lee. Now, like our friend said, he called in some favors at CGC. So did I. But here's how my story went. I called CGC one day. And I got this really kind gentleman on the phone. I think his name was Jason. I think it was Jason. And I said, Jason, look, There are only 4 yellow label 9/8 of a wizard on the census. Okay. I own one of them, and it is signed by Stan and Todd. 2 of the other ones, my friend owns. I've seen them. I don't need any information. They're both signed by Todd. There's only one that I have never seen. I do not need the cert number from you. I don't need the owner's name. I'm not asking for any privileged information. I just want you to go into your system and tell me, is the damn thing signed by Stan? I need to know, do I have the only Wizard 9/8 signed by Stan? And he could hear it in my voice how important this was to me. And he said, I can't give you the cert. I don't even want the cert. I don't even care what the certification is. I don't need a picture of it. I need you to go in and just tell me. And he got so invested that not only did he confirm that I have the only one, but he said, let's go down the list and see where the next Stanley one is. And the only one close to my 9/8, if I remember correctly, was a 9/2. So there's quite a gap between my 9/8 and that 9/2.
That's impressive.
So I have that book. I love that book. That is my grail book. I'm a wizard nut, clearly. But yeah, so and so devastating, right? I put so much significance on that being the only yellow label 9/8 signed by Stan. And look at CGC disappointing me here.
Right. And then it comes.
I want this company to succeed. I love this company.
Yeah. I love CGC as well. So, I love them. I mean, most of them. I love most of CGC.
I hear you.
Yeah. In the last 3 years, I've fallen in love with
We're working through some difficulties right now.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
CGC is sleeping on the couch right now. And that's okay. But we're gonna go talk. We're gonna go get some counseling. It's fine.
Yeah.
No
TV after 7. No guests over. No phone calls.
You put that wizard number 1 down, CGC. You're not allowed to play with that.
I'm gonna get
now.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That's right. So didn't mean to turn this into a wizard thing, but I'm glad that it was appreciated.
So well. I've got a stack of well-read wizards and heroes and the other secondary books. I pick them up whenever I can find them. They are not grade worthy in any sense of the word, but these are books that I'll show my kids and be like, "This is all we had when we were."
Yeah,
when I was younger.
I'm liking the Nintendo Power magazines too. And
this is it.
Oh, right come on! I just for fun, since we're still doing it, the ones that aren't grade worthy, I still keep them.
Buddy, you and I are going to have a conversation after this episode is over because I would love.
You know what's interesting? He has 3 there, and there are 3 of us. Tim, what do you think?
Fancy that.
Oh,
Christmas is coming up soon. So.
Yeah.
Wow. It's only our first date, guys. What the hell? No, that's great. That's
dinner,
great. No, I love
it. All I want's a kiss at the end of the day. So
sure.
I love it. But and I think that's really incredible about us and our community is, the people that are quick to say, "Oh, you guys are just anti-CGC," they are so wrong. We're hurt because we actually want CGC to be what they promised us.
We really wish this hadn't happened.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's why we care, not because we're trying to take down some company that doesn't matter. If it didn't matter to me, it wouldn't matter to me.
Like you said, this is something you can't just hold on to. And with the company saying, "What are you doing? You're doing the right thing. You're telling people, you're letting them know, hey, this is wrong. Something's very wrong about this, and other people with better vision than me need to look into this while I continue to do the same thing." And it's because of the love of this hobby, this event that we all enjoy, the paper, the 4-color ink, the staples, and the stories inside, and the covers that make them modern art masterpieces. It's because of all of that we care and that we're concerned so much.
I mean, we got excited about him showing us a book and he's 1,000 miles away from us that we'll never touch, and we got excited to look at it. What other,
It's amazing. There's nothing like this. That's why we want to protect it. This is a really special thing.
Sal, I've said it many times before. We just love. We're window shoppers, right? With our guests and things like that, and with ourselves, with our friends. We love looking at everybody's stuff, and we love oohing and on. It is 4th of July every night here, and it's amazing, and that's part of what makes this so awesome. And to see those things in the slabs that are now in question, it makes it that much more difficult because it's a company that you're supposed to trust. They have guarantee in their name, and now they can't even guarantee that.
I know. I mean, to think about, I sold that 9.8 for so much money.
Mhm.
I have these raws here. I have these 9.2s and 9.4s. If I get another 9.8, I can do a switcheroo. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to, but I'm just saying, like, if someone is of that state of mind, anyone can do
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is
And
messed up.
we have to somehow put a stop to it.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
why
it
it's
has
good
to.
that we
There's,
all
I
know
don't see a
this.
way
I know,
to.
but yeah, it's gonna have. Who knows?
I cannot see. I had this conversation earlier today. No, it was yesterday, and I said, what if CGC finds some way to tell us it's okay not to have a new case? What could they possibly say that makes it okay to not create a new
I
case?
don't think that is something the community, as in the majority, will stand for. If they're like, yeah, the cases are okay. No, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously that's been
And
proven wrong. So
Yeah.
I mean,
it's been proven wrong. Like, so how could they, and then the easy fix, if it is a fix, because look, I don't know, but if someone finds a way to duplicate the inner sleeve, well, then we're completely screwed.
Right?
Then we're completely screwed, because this idea of, well, have the series, it's a great idea, because the cert number is only on the outer encapsulation. It should also be represented on the inner well as well, so that they're always a
Yeah.
pair.
See, and I made mention of that on the last episode too.
yep.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant idea. Now, scammers gonna scam.
Yep, they'll figure it out.
I think I
They'll figure
suggested
something out.
I think I suggested last time that CGC actually put like a slip of paper somewhere inside the book that has that serial number that's hidden. It's slabbed into the book. The book is shut, and that if anybody cracks it and decides, oh, I'm just going to submit that whole book, inner sleeve and all. Now this goes back to the CGC reholdering process that needs to be redone.
They have to examine the book
that book, and they go to that spot and say,
re-encapsulating it.
wait a minute.
That forces quality control.
Forces quality control.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate that we have to make them do that.
What can I say? Yeah, no.
It's so unfortunate. They should have thought all this through, but they got, like I said, we gave them so much power. They never had to sweat anything. They've been coasting.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what the only thing they ever tell us is about a new signing coming. Do not get me started on the flaws in the signature series system.
Yeah. We won't go. That's another episode altogether.
That's another episode. We don't need to muddy the waters. We have a focus. We got to drive this home, okay?
Yep.
We'll deal with that later. Most important is the case.
My God.
Okay, the case is more important. But yeah. But in any case, pun intended, I suppose.
That's
don't put it in any case.
In any case,
that's a good one. Nice dad.
There's a lot of good stuff happening tonight.
Nice dad joke there. I gotta put that in my repertoire.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
In any case, have a 9.8 day.
Yeah.
So my tagline now is going to be, suspect now too.
It is in question, Sal.
Yeah, it is. My tagline when I sign off is I say I hope everybody has a 9.8 day.
Say it with a question mark now.
9.8 day?
Do I want you to have a 9.8 day? Do I want you to have a?
Did you submit the day yourself?
Because in that case, then it's a 9.8.
Oh my God.
Then it's a 9.8.
Now my tagline is gone. I think I've got to just trash it.
CGC is taking everything we
Oh
want
my
from us.
God.
Have a CBCS 9.8 day.
Have a PGX 9.9.
Exactly, right?
Oh,
and so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Actually, what Wes just said there just kind of shot a question in my head. With all this going on with CGC, what does that do for the other grading companies? Do they sit back and just take notes and say, "Oh, okay, all right, we got to do this."
Well, they're in oh crap mode too, surely, right?
Yeah, they have to be. They have to be.
I mean, the same person that made the video showing how to open up a CGC case is investigating how to open a CBCS case, and it was more difficult. It didn't work out. It wasn't a clean open, and there's a new iteration of the case that I don't know if he's attempted to do yet. But the point is, people will try to figure out what they can. But I'm hearing that the CBCS cases are incredibly difficult to get into without damage. That's just kind of the consensus. Now, I don't know. Maybe someone's going to find a trick. But so far, it seems like they have the more secure case. That seems pretty obvious. But there's a
All
bigger
this time.
problem here. The bigger problem, all this time, right? Yeah, we picked the wrong
Yeah.
brand, guys. Jeez.
Coke or Pepsi? Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Yeah, man. All of a sudden,
Stand
we
down,
had
Tim.
store brand the whole
Yeah,
time. We didn't even
we had
know it.
RC Cola.
And
Go ahead.
exactly, right? Oh, that RC's like a blast from the past. That was kind of a cool reference. I forgot all about RC. Jolt. Do we
Jolt,
have
yeah,
Jolt?
Jolt.
Something like that.
Oh, Jolt.
And then
and
if you want PGX, you can go drink Dr. Thunder. So,
yeah. Did you just make that up? Is that actually
that's a drink.
name
That's
of
a
Yeah.
beverage?
Walmart brand,
Sam's
Okay, yeah.
Sam's
Cola.
Club, Costco
Yeah.
brand,
Oh,
Dr. Pepper.
PGX is so funny. So where the heck was I?
sorry.
Talking
I
I don't
derailed
know.
your drink.
Well, no, it's
The-
fine. We'll go
the
somewhere
We
else.
do, we
difficulty of
do this. We
CBCS
get
cases.
sorry.
So no, yeah, but no, this is the fun of these kinds of conversations. So the CBCS case has it's kind of like a consensus right now that it is the more challenging one to open. But here's the thing, and you guys, I'm sure you're going to agree. CBCS, I meant to say CBCS. CBCS has never really taken advantage of opportunities to really get in here and grab market
Yeah.
share. Now,
I think the
on
only
top of
thing
that,
that they did was the verification for signatures.
That's it.
CGC doesn't offer that, but CBCS does.
yeah, and it's not foolproof, but yes,
Right.
they offer
Yeah.
that. And you know, they are now owned by Beckett.
Yep.
Yes.
Beckett, the card grading company. Beckett is it's a you can't even it's a mess. That business is an absolute mess.
Really?
Huh. I
An
didn't know
absolute
that.
mess, from turnaround times, from customer service, from everything, and the value of their slabs. Here, coincidentally, I have a Beckett slab right here.
Beckett's slab,
But I have
looks
this Beckett
so
slab.
good compared to PSA.
Here's why I have this. This is a 1984 Ron Friends business card with Black Suit Spidey.
Wow.
It is not graded. It's a business card, but it's authenticated. Why? Because it says "Best wishes, Ron."
Wow.
Nice.
So
That's
I
awesome.
like that Beckett does that. So now the thing is,
See, Beckett used to be the go-to for sports.
they used to be. Beckett used to be the top
gold standard.
They were the price guide back in the
Yes.
day.
They were the wizard.
Exactly right. Beckett was the number one. PSA has obviously taken over, and they're the winner by a long shot. But Beckett used to be the one that commands the premium. So now Beckett has bought CBCS. They reside in the same building. I think they're still in Dallas or somewhere in Texas, I believe. But the problem is, even if they were to market the fact that they have a more secure slab, they made one post. Woohoo! They should have made a bunch of posts. They should have had their PR people contacting influencers and sending packages out with free slabs. There's a bunch of stuff they should have done. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? They still have an opportunity, but the thing is, even if they turn that marketing machine on, they would never be able to handle an influx of submissions.
Nope.
They would get buried. Turnaround times would go back to pandemic sort of schedule, a year out. You remember what happened?
yeah.
They had graders taking books home.
Yeah.
They're going to do stuff like that, and that's a no-no.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So even if they were able to get our attention, they wouldn't be able to handle our books.
Nope.
We don't have a great second alternative. We
Wow.
just don't.
Another good
CGC
point.
has this. CGC organically has become, not organically, that's the wrong word, has somehow, through a series of a bunch of things, become a monopoly. And
It's very true.
that's a problem. We need competition. We need credible competition. Any industry deserves it, and the customers deserve it. And we need more than one option, quite frankly, because great power, great responsibility. Well, they have abused their responsibilities entirely.
And I think they're going to pay for that now. I mean, they already are. Like, maybe not.
Oh, they haven't
so
yet.
No, yeah,
they
that's
haven't
exactly
yet.
right. But they're feeling the
Yeah.
sting now, and by exactly what you said, Manu, and exactly what we're doing. This conversation needs to continue. It doesn't need to stop. This needs to be talked about every day until real changes are made to things that need to be changed. The cases, quality control. I can't believe I'm even saying that. And so much other stuff. It needs to be investigated from the inside out, and the people that, and it has to be. It can't be more than one. It cannot be. The people and the shops that are involved in this need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They need to be made an example of, and people need to understand that if you do this, that this is huge. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially millions of dollars. We're getting into millions, guys.
Well, I can account for $250,000 just through the people that I
That's
talk to.
250,000 for the layperson.
This is in the millions. Like, I mean, I can't substantiate every receipt, but
it's safe to assume that at this point, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, and with them saying only a couple hundred books, when on the last episode I said less than 1,000, more than one.
You did.
Somewhere
That's
in
right.
there, and now after this whole conversation, this hour and a half of talking, it's
1,000's
gotta
probably low end.
1,000. Yeah, 1,000 is at the low end. This dude counted for 5% of Amazing Spider-Man number 300 on the census, on the fucking census. And that's just one book. Yeah, there it is. There's our one for the
one
episode.
for the show. No one can use it.
Hey,
it's all gone.
And not to mention that 194, the first Black Cat, that was like 7% of the census.
That's
he had on.
huge.
There's 54 9/8 on that list. There's only 500 and something 9/8 on the census.
Wow. And
or whatever.
So CGC, in my opinion, the
194 was 10% of the census. The ASM was 7%.
Look at that. That's even worse.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 194, first appearance of Black Cat, 10% on the census has to do with this. And that is an insane number to think of. 10% of all graded books. And
that book was selling for over $5,000 in 2021.
Do the math, ladies and gentlemen. Do the math on that. That is insane. So in my opinion, and this will be my tail end of this whole conversation. And I know that we can go 5 more hours on this. We could. And that's the perfect opportunity to have you back on and carry this conversation on some more. But dude, the pleasure is all mine. The pleasure is all ours. It's been all a joy having you here. But my end all for this, like the end of my opinion, is that CGC has a lot of work to do, not only to repair trust. I mean, that's at a minimum. At a minimum, you can't even put a Band-Aid on this anymore. You have to fix it. You have to do things, and you have to be as transparent as legally possible, right? They have to. They don't have a choice anymore. They have to be transparent. They can't stall. They can't take their time. They can't pussyfoot around, and they can't beat around the bush. They have to be honest, because we've been lied to this whole time. And like you said, CGC is not the victim here. It is as much their fault as it is the person that did this with quality control, that these books were allowed to enter the building and go from one case to another without even looking is mind-blowing to me. I am so irritated by that.
This issue is going to echo for possibly decades, and I say that with the thought of, like, well, first off, everything you said, Tim, 100%. 100%.
And that's just the
and I'm not trying to pile on here, but
that's good.
But if you think of it, let's say we can snap our fingers right now, and all the problems that CGC has right now goes away, and all of a sudden everything's good to go. We trust them again with a magic genie snap of a finger. A million genie. Or 8 billion genies. So,
great story, by the way.
So let's say that happens. What about the guy who bought a $5,000 ASM? What was one of the first Black?
194.
194. And he doesn't really follow social media. He doesn't really watch YouTube. And 10 years from now, he's like, you know what? I bought that as an investment. I'm going to go pull it out of the safe that I've left it in. And he goes to sell it. And somebody goes, you know, that's a fraud, right? And that was like 10 years ago, dude. I mean, this is going to echo because not everybody
That's a
watches
good point. No,
YouTube and social media. This is not making
you
national
make a good
news.
point.
This is not on
Yeah.
CNN.
It
This
needs to be.
it needs to be. And maybe it will be
Yeah.
when it becomes like really big, like when it finally comes to fruition, maybe it'll become mainstream.
When prosecution starts to happen.
Yeah,
Like,
when prosecution. But
Right.
until then, it's YouTubers, it's Instagrammers, it's social media guys, and maybe small outlets, or whatever. But 10 years from now, that guy goes, yeah, man, that was an investment book I bought on eBay one day on a whim because I knew and I love that character, but they don't really. And then he's going to go to sell that book, and that guy's going to go, this certification number means that this thing is a fraud, and sorry, buddy, this is. And he's going to be screwed. And I don't know. Like I said, this is gonna echo for decades, possibly.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
So, but Tim, you're 100% right. It has to be fixed, even with that 10 or 20-year echo.
Yep.
We've still got to fix it.
Yep.
They've still got to fix it, and hopefully that'll come to fruition somewhat.
Yep.
In a reasonable time, but
Yeah.
until then, but we do need to have some patience with them, I do believe, because this is a huge problem that cannot be fixed with the snap of a finger.
Right.
So we will
let them do their due diligence. Let them
will need to
do
be
their best,
patient.
their investigations. Let them get to the bottom of it, and then have them present that to the public or to whatever it is. They don't have to give you all the nitty gritty details, but they do have to say, this is what we found out. This is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to go forward.
So we're going to find out what that compensation looks like. We're going to start finding that out soon, because books are already at CGC.
Yep.
And on that first day, people saw their books and they're like, oh, I'm getting to the post office. I still got an hour before the post office closes. Those are the conversations I was having. And many of those books are now marked as delivered, but they have to start hitting, people's accounts and showing the process. So we're going to learn that. This is maybe, we talked about Go Collect talking about the imaging, right? But this is just, I get it. The people that were reholdering the books, they're not comic book people, but the simplest step could have avoided all of this. You don't have to be a comic book person to compare details in pictures. Right. If they just compared the book that came in with the pre-existing scan, you could avoid maybe not all of this, but most of this. Yeah. Right? Because how did I identify it? With small pictures. And then busted
the guy immediately.
Pictures.
Well, that Incredible Hulk 181 had that corner crease, that little corner crease.
They're identifiable. Yep. We know books. And the other problem is this. How come us as users of the CGC website, how come when a book comes in for a reholder, the only image available to us is the latest image? Why don't they keep a record of the scans? How come those scans get deleted? That's why Go Collect is doing what they're doing, so we can actually compare what the certain number has been through the transactions. But we should be able to compare what that certain number had anytime that book was on the premises.
And the release of grader's notes.
Oh, come on. That's the least they can
That's
do.
Another show.
Every single book. To grade a book, you had to determine what was wrong with it, right? Write it down.
Yep. And why is it a 9.8? What are the imperfections that prevent it? Because from my understanding, a 9.9, and I believe it was you that said this, Manu, a 9.9 is allowed one minor imperfection.
Matt Nelson said that, and I turned it into a reel because I was blown away.
Yeah.
No collectors that I deal with would ever look at a book with the tick and assume they were going to receive a 9.9. Yep. And every collector I deal with has submitted 9.8s that are near flawless, and they never get 9.9.
I've got books over there
world,
that look immaculate. Wes and I have looked over books, and it blows us away.
The example that I give is a modern book, Ultimate Fallout 4 first print, 4,700 9.8s. Add the second print onto that, a couple hundred more. How many 9.9s? Zero. Yep. The game is rigged. That is absolute bullshit. Because you're going to tell me there are books like Iron Man 1, there's multiple 9.9s, but a modern book in today's day and age of printing and cutting with 5,000 9.8s.
Yeah.
There's no 9.9?
Because they know that those
You know?
books are going to go for a massive premium on the secondary market. They know it.
Like,
Well,
what
they
I
want
said
us to
was
keep sending more in, hoping for that 9.9. Send more in. It's that
Yeah.
lure of the
But if
9.9.
they
Gravy
never,
train.
But it's so insulting to have it on record that a 9.9 can have a tick, but they don't distribute 9.9. I mean, and you know, Bry from Bry's Comics, he did do a video where one of his, you know, but these are the modern books, the square bound books where people do actually get 9.9s and 10s. That's regarded differently.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm talking about a book from the 80s, that's a real goal to get a 9.9. To turn some book that just came out perfectly with a metal or plastic cover into a 10, that doesn't really matter. It's a novelty grade. I mean, it's still going to be worth more than a 9.8, but it's not what we search for, you know, with books that are decades old. But he did get one of his square bound books back with the tick, and it was a 9.9. And he did communicate with them. He was like, "How are you guys gonna give me a 9.9 on this?" And they were like, "No, 9.9s are allowed to have one tick. You're gonna keep that grade." He was like, "Well, I can't sell this. No buyer of a 9.9 wants to see a tick. Buyers of 9.8s
don't want to.
that think they
They
know
don't
the
want to see a
grading
tick
system,
either.
they don't want to see a tick. They'll call, you know, they'll call the seller back and say, "Hey, you sold me a 9.8 with the tick on it." And you got to explain. Well, 9.8s can have several ticks depending on the size of the tick, you know. But nobody wants to buy a 9.9 with a tick on it.
Do you own
That's
any 9.9s?
I've never owned any 9.9s. I have owned 10s. I know it's my name, but it's my name because it's a goal of mine.
Yeah.
Right. I want to grade into a 9.9. And it's also philosophy for me. The 9.9 newsstand is double layered. I don't shoot for 10s because I don't think 10s are real. I don't even think the grade 10 should exist. That's a fallacy.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as perfect. So I don't think a grade representing it should exist. But the pursuit of a 9.9 newsstand is more of a driver. And the reason I love newsstands is because they were the underdog. They were the ones neglected back in the day because an art box is better than a bunch of lines. So when we were collecting, we wanted art boxes, not a bunch of lines. And we're comic book guys. We bought our books, a lot of us, from comic book stores, you know, like that. Those are the ones we bagged and boarded. And so the survivability of a newsstand, you know, all of the reasons that they are so difficult and high grade. And obviously, I'm aware of the distribution percentages. You know, when direct market was introduced, there's actually less directs than newsstands, but there are still more high grade directs than newsstands because collectors bought directs and bag and boarded them. And then as you get into the modern era, that's when the newsstands are just a fraction of a fraction, and they're far more significant in their rarity, and it's combined with the fact that they were sold at Barnes and Nobles and bookstores where people were flipping through them and putting them back.
Like that era.
Exactly right. I love
Grocery
that, dude. I love that
everywhere.
book so much. That book is a piece of my heart. And so I really feel I love that about a newsstand, that it was neglected but now appreciated, and you know, you clap for it, you applaud for it when it's a high grade. You know, it's like you're rooting for the underdog, and he showed up unscathed, even though there were so many challenges for 30 years, he or she. So that's why my name is that. It's a philosophy more than anything.
Nice. All right. I do believe we can then wrap up this episode, unless anybody has any other final thoughts on this.
I could go on for.
We'll come back for more. We'll come back another time.
Let me just say, from the Codex Station, you are amazing. You're a great person.
Oh yeah,
man. Love to have you back anytime. You shoot
you.
Tim, you shoot anybody else an email or a message, and we'll have you on that show that night. That's how fast we could have you on that show.
You got to start your own YouTube channel, man. You'd kill it out there.
Yes, you would. Yeah, definitely start your own YouTube channel.
I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate the encouragement. And if I do start the channel, you guys will be the first to know. I don't know if I'm going to, but maybe I will.
That's exclusive, ladies and gentlemen, right there.
Hey, ride this wave of fame. Negative or positive, ride it.
Yeah.
All publicity is good publicity, or something.
That's right. That's right.
All right. But guys, thank you so much for having me. Amazing to hang out with you. Looking forward to the next time. I appreciate it.
Definitely check him out on Instagram at the 9.9 Newsstand. Okay. I am your host, Sal the Slab Guy. Over to this side of me is Tim the Terrible. Down below is West Rebel Scum. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been an honor and a pleasure speaking with you tonight about slab books. And guys, I can't say my tagline, so we'll just catch you on the next episode of Codex Slab.
See you guys.
See ya.